to the art of slowing down. What an exciting episode title. Welcome back if you're new. Hi, I'm Evie. If you've been here before, you know the drill. Hello, how are you? I hope that you're well. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or YouTube rather than Spotify, this is just a quick reminder that if you come over to Spotify, you'll be able to see me. If you would rather watch this rather than just listen, head on over to Spotify and you'll see me there. Today, we are going to talk about how to rest like you really mean it. I want you to think of this episode as a really luxury guide to reclaiming your energy before the new year. And it's completely on purpose that this episode is coming out on the 23rd of December, just a few moments before the big day, if you celebrate Christmas. And hopefully, over the next few days, there is going to be some time for you to chill and rest. It might not be today or tomorrow. You might work in healthcare and be busy on Christmas Day. But I'm really hoping over the next week, at some point before the new year, there will be a moment to catch your breath, to pause, to reset, to chill. And I'm hoping this episode will help walk you in to the most nourishing way you could show up to that time. So let's dive in. I really think there is nothing that says I've got my shit together like knowing when to slow down and let the magic of rest do its work. And I think this kind of concept of a slow life is a really intentional, powerful choice. And it's not lazy. It's not anything to do with laziness. Laziness doesn't appear in this world of taking good care of yourself. In fact, you could think of slow living as a really elegant rebellion against hustle culture. Let's sit with that for a moment. An elegant rebellion against hustle culture. Sign me up. And how do I engage with this elegant rebellion? I put in really healthy boundaries and I take good care of myself. Okay, sign me up. I'm in. Twist my arm, why don't you? But let's just ground back in to the present moment before we get caught up in that elegant rebellion. It is late December. Yeah? Maybe you're listening to this on the day it comes out. Maybe you're listening to this somewhere in the crimbo limbo. The world is buzzing with end of year chaos. I'm not filming this on the 23rd, surprisingly. But even now, I know how busy that week looks for me. We are visiting my husband's family, then we are back up to the north to spend time with my family. Then we've got different friends staying with us during the Christmas limbo and all the way up to New Year. I would imagine potentially your Christmas limbo might sound really similar. You might also have a really busy time. And so amongst all this end of year chaos, I'd like you to begin to embody calm, still overflow. What am I talking about? Go back a few episodes. Listen to when I talk about overflow a lot. Overflow is the radiant, energized, higher version of yourself that you think is not possible. And I'm here to remind you is. This version of you is possible. This version of you is calm and not reactive. This version of you is still and not stressed out. This version of you is overflowing with all of the best qualities of you. And they come from slowing down and living this slow life. Enter the power of the pause. It's a busy week. I just laid out how busy it is for me. I'd like you to think about the power. Let's talk about the sacred pause, okay? Liminal space is a big interest of mine. I've done quite a lot of work on it. Episode 7, I do a whole episode about it. Liminal space is the place between and betwixt where we once were and where we're not yet. Richard Rohr, who's written 1 million books at this point, talks about it really, really well. Suzanne Stabile, who has also written a lot of wonderful books, talks about it really, really well. That is where I learnt a lot about liminal space. But this week, we are in that liminal space. I think by the end of the day on the 25th, we have entered that liminal space, and some of us can find it overwhelming. Some of us really love it. Some of us can indulge too far in it. Type 7s, I'm looking at you. I'm kidding. We're allowed to joke on this podcast, right? But this is where transformation brews. This is where really potent change comes from. We're entering into it now. We are wrapping up 2024 and we are getting ready to step into 2025. And we are going to do that amongst really yummy food and presents and people and time and TV. Who's excited for the Gavin and Stacey Christmas special? Me? I am. Are you? I hope it's not a disappointment. Anyway, but this is a place for really, really potent transformation to take place. And that comes from deep, deep rest. It doesn't come from doing anything. We just have to let it happen. There's not really anything else to do. It's the 23rd of December. The presents have surely been bought by now, you know? Maybe you need to wrap a few more. Maybe you need to peel some potatoes, but we're here. And there'll be moments where it feels chaotic. And this is where the invitation to really lean in to this sacred pause comes in. You know, the world is kind of winding down. I always feel like the world is quiet when supermarkets are closed. Like, that's when you know shit's got real, right? And the supermarkets are going to be closed, you know? There's nowhere to go. Lean into that sacred pause. Lean away from perfectionism. Lean away from hustle culture. Lean into wrapping up this year in a really nourishing way. Let's talk about the science, okay? Rest is where creativity is born. It's where clarity and emotional regulation flourish. I think when we're spending a lot of time with family and lots of people in close quarters, we need to be as emotionally regulated as possible, right? Yes. And so that is going to come through rest. That doesn't come from meeting everybody else's needs, running around from 6 a.m. all the way through until 10 p.m. and then worrying about stuff overnight, trying to make things the most magical Christmas ever. We're here. We're here now. Just relax. Just lean into it, okay? Let's enjoy it, perhaps. I work with a lot of very high achievers, overachievers, okay? This is for you. Let's just enjoy this. There's nothing else to win. There's nothing else to do. If you burn the potatoes, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, let's try not to, of course. Yummy. But it's not going to be the end of the world, okay, you guys? And if we want to show up really well on Christmas Day or when we're with family, doing that from a place of being really rested is going to allow for that clarity, for that creativity to really flourish. Also, neuroscience has shown us that the brain processes emotions, ideas, even memories during times of rest. That makes it a non-negotiable, okay? It's really important as we're on the precipice of this new year that we process everything that we need to process. Let's not carry anything extra that we don't need into 2025. Let the sacred pause do that, carry that, hold that. And we also know that chronic busyness is going to lead to burnout. Not it might lead to burnout, possibly it will lead to burnout. Okay? But we know that intentional rest is going to recharge both the brain and the body, helping them function to the best of its ability. Glorious. Let's do that instead. Let's move away from that foggy, disconnected, overwhelmed state and move into that radiant, energized, overflowing place. Let's do that this week. Sounds pretty good, right? You know we're going to touch on the Enneagram. You know we are. We're going to talk about stances again this week. We've touched on stances before. We're going to talk about them again. Okay, I've just shifted positions because I was getting a dead leg. If anybody who's watching this is wondering what just happened. So let's talk about stances. So we've got the withdrawing stance, we've got the dependent stance, we've got the aggressive stance, which are also known as the forward stance sometimes as well. Let's start with those guys. Let's start with the forward stance. So these are types 3, 7, and 8. These types are action oriented, okay? These guys are fast paced. There is a lot of momentum with these types. And so rest can feel like a waste of time to these types. Can feel like that's something for weak people and I don't need it because I'm all about moving forward. So I'm just going to keep moving forward. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah? I really want you guys, types 3, 7, and 8, to reframe rest as productive recovery. Do you like the sound of that? I think you might. We're reframing rest to productive recovery. Sounds so good, right? It's a way to come back stronger. It's a way to come back to work. It's a way to come back to work, to life stronger. It's a way to enter 2025 stronger. So obviously you guys thrive on movement. Absolutely, you guys are made for that. But just like a Formula One car needs a pit stop, get your tyres changed, top up on some fuel, and then head off even stronger. What if rest was your secret power move? What if this productive recovery was what changed everything in 2025? And so I think for these types, kind of a structured rest schedule is going to be the best way for you to enter into it, yeah? So don't just take a slow morning, take a scheduled slow morning where you make breakfast from scratch and then you do a 20-minute yoga class and then you do a walk to the shops to buy milk and head back. That could be a really great morning of productive recovery that you can share with the people in your life, your partner or your friends, for a little bit of accountability and to stop them kind of barging in on your time. Yeah? Can you boundary that time in the same way that you might boundary a meeting or a birthday party, type 7s? I'm looking at you. Could that time be scheduled in a way that it feels really productive and really restful? What would that look like? Okay, let's talk about the withdrawing stance. These are types 4, 5, and 9. So these types really retreat inwards, often living in their heads. And that sounds maybe like these types would be really good at rest because, they're so internal, they're already withdrawn away from other people. But actually, the inner worlds of these types is so vivid and rich that taking intentional and nourishing rest can still be a little tricky. So my reframe for you guys is to start seeing rest as creative incubation. Do we like that? Creative incubation. That has a totally different energy to it than just spending the next 8 hours by yourself. So this is a space for dreams, ideas, emotions, inspiration to percolate, yeah? You already know how to withdraw really well. Cool. But what if you did it with a whole load of intention and care? That the withdrawing was really specific, that the withdrawing was really intentional. That you weren't withdrawing just to zone out, but you were withdrawing to zone in. And then maybe you could imagine kind of emerging more inspired than ever. Yes, please, sign me up. I'd love an hour of creative incubation. That sounds wicked. Also, why this is helpful is then you have things to bring back to the tribe, to the community, to the collective, to the family, because this group can sometimes struggle with not having anything to bring to a conversation or to a meal or to a hangout. But actually what this then allows for is you can bring all of that all of that creativity to the next meeting, to the next hangout, to the next meal. I think that could be really, really exciting over the next week. And then finally, we've got the responsive stance, also known as the dependent stance. These are types 1s, 2s, and 6s. So these types are the types that are always responding to external demands and needs. These are the types that feel really guilty about resting. So my reframe for you guys is daily devotion. I heard recently, maybe you've seen this too, I've seen this in multiple places across social media, but how can we reframe discipline into devotion? I actually think I'm going to do a whole podcast about it in the new year, but I think for type 1s, 2s and 6s this week, daily devotion could be a really helpful reframe. Could be a really helpful reframe as a way to show up for others and yourself each day. Not when you get so exhausted that you can't carry on anymore. Not when you're so tired and somebody has to tell you to go and take a nap or a bath. How can you show up for yourself daily in a really devoted way? You know it, I know it, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't. You've tried, I've tried, it doesn't work. And so there is an opportunity here to begin each day with a full cup. How can you devote to yourself daily with rest, with nourishment, with self-care, whatever word you want to use, so that you start that day feeling really full, not trying to catch dregs from other people to fill that cup. Yeah, how can you start the day from a place of overflow? I want you to feel replenished, and I want you to really respect yourself and rest for all of us, but maybe particularly for this stance, is the ultimate way to show yourself that you care about yourself, that you respect yourself. There are just some ideas there to play with over the next week. And you could play with your stress number. The holidays can bring out our stress numbers. So your stress number, if you don't know this part of the Enneagram yet, everybody has a main type. That is the type that you'll find when you do my quiz. Everybody has a main type. And then that type moves and under stress can take on the behaviors, the actions of another type. And we call this your stress number. It's really easy to find your stress number. It's actually a lot to do with the diagram you see, which is the actual Enneagram. But I'll just run through it really quickly here. So type 1s move to 4 when they're stressed. Type 4 move to 2 when they're stressed. Type 2 move to 8 when they're stressed. Type 8 moves to 5 when they're stressed. Type 5 moves to 7 when they're stressed. Type 7 moves back to 1 when they're stressed. 6s move to 3s when they're stressed. 3s move to 9 when they're stressed. 9 move to 6 when they're stressed. Okay? That is going to have thrown some of you guys. Hey, we're up leveling. We're up leveling. You can do this. If that means nothing to do and you're not interested in that right now, totally fine. Absolutely ignore it. If you know your Enneagram type and you know your stressed out type, check in to see if your stress type reframe could be helpful. Maybe creative incubation could be really helpful right now if you find yourself in a withdrawing stance place. Maybe one of the others could be really helpful. So that's just something to be aware of as well. You might be having a ball. You might be thinking, Eve, what are you talking about? My family is perfect. My friends are perfect. I've had no issues this year and I feel amazing. So good, so good, so happy for you. You enjoy that. For the rest of us, who that, just wherever you are at for this holiday season is totally allowed, and there's so much space for that. Yeah. You could find yourself in your integration number, which is a whole other story that we will save for 2025. Let's talk about curating your rest ritual then, okay? So I've just talked you into actually giving yourself longer than, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes in the shower. Let's talk about what curating your rest ritual would look like. We've had a little bit of inspiration already, dependent on your type. Here are some other ideas that you might want to play with over the next week or so as we're in this Christmas limbo time, yeah? So you could think of this as a step-by-step guide to the ultimate rest and rejuvenation. You could pick things off this list that sound good to you. You could be inspired by this list and think of something that I haven't mentioned and commit to doing that. Just use this as inspiration. This is what I am going to hopefully be doing lots this week. Okay, first things first, we have to set the scene. I am a scene setter. I think candles being lit, I think candles that smell good transform the scene. If you don't have candles, just dimming the lights, okay? We are not a big light family here, okay? Don't know about you. Get those big lights off, put on the lamps, make it feel cozy. You might want to put on some soft music. Taylor Swift folklore, anybody? You might want to get your essential oils out. You might want to be under cozy blankets. You might want to not be wearing jeans and be wearing something stretchy. I think if you're wearing a lot of jeans this week, take a good hard look at yourself. Why are you doing that? This is the week you don't have to, okay? Let's really prioritize comfort. Let's get snuggly. For me, mindful unwinding is always going to include the breath. If you've been following along on Instagram, you know that I offer something called Mindful Mondays. So I lead a free meditation class every Monday morning at 7 a.m. All you have to do is be following me on Instagram. If you've been joining those, wow, how have you been finding them? I'd love to know. But breath work, meditation is a huge part of my practice. And so what I would do next is definitely take a few deep breaths. You could pop on an actual guided meditation. You could have a free meditation. You could pop on some music and use that as your meditation guide. But I would close down the eyes and I would get really still and I would focus on the breath. The quickest way, I've said it before, the quickest way to regulate your nervous system is through slowing down. And the quickest way to slow your body down is with your breath. Take some deep, yummy breaths and notice the shift in your body. You're going to love it. This is also going to help you transform from doing. Maybe you've, just cooked a meal for everybody, or you've just tidied up, or, whatever. You've just been doing a lot. This is going to help you transform from doing into being. Lovely. Then we want to be nourished, okay? We want to sip on something nourishing. So that could be your favorite herbal tea. That could be a cacao, a ceremonial grade cacao. Wow. That could be a seasonal hot chocolate. That could be a golden milk. But having something warm is really going to help the body to relax as well. I would throw in some time to journal. A lot of you hate to journal. It's the biggest feedback I get. And, if you're not a writer, I can definitely see that being less exciting if you don't love to write. Maybe you just hate it and that's the beginning and the end of it. And I totally want to respect that. But maybe we often come to journaling without doing the first 3 steps and we're so frantic and chaotic and the nervous system ain't regulated and it's stressful and you've got 3 minutes until you need to go pick this person up from somewhere, that, it doesn't feel very nice. So I gently offer this idea of maybe trying to journal in a really relaxing and cozy environment, and maybe see then if it's any different, because I do think writing and journaling is a really great way to connect to your inner world, great way to connect to your heart center, your thinking center. I, as a type 1 in the body center, find that really helpful, but I do think there is support there for all of us. So journaling prompts could look like, what would it feel like to rest deeply right now, unapologetically? Or which part of me is asking to rest right now? That would be a really interesting journaling prompt to sink your teeth into. And you don't need to journal for hours, but maybe just put pen to paper and see what comes out. I think it will be really, really interesting. I would then throw some gentle movement in there. So that could just be stretches. That could be yoga. That could be dancing around by yourself in your room. That could be going for a walk. If you could get in a sauna, that would be great. It's maybe not the most achievable. I don't have a sauna to go to either. But that would be, if I was making my dream list, that would be on there, yeah? And then I would close with gratitude. You've heard me say it. You've heard other people say it. Are you doing it? Let's start doing it, okay? Let's just acknowledge this gift of rest that you've just created for yourself, yeah? Let that gratitude sink in. Notice how it feels. So those are just some ideas. There'll be other things on your list. That list will be too long for some of you. Find what feels good, to use the words of Yoga with Adrian. Find what feels good and then do that. This is the week to do that. This is the week to lean in. This is the week to lean in to the sacred pause. If you're craving a deeper rest and you would like to be led through that, I would love to invite you to my seasonal reset happening on January the 13th, a winter's guide to new beginnings. If you've never come to one of my seasonal resets before, each quarter, each season, I hold a journaling and meditation event. They're online. You can join from anywhere. Our autumn event was madness. It was so beautiful. Oh, it was so, so nourishing. And the winter seasonal reset is happening on January 13th. It's a 90-minute class where we are going to be using stillness as strategy. So if you're looking to rest and reflect and set some really honouring intentions, do come and join us on January the 13th. The early bird tickets are still available. I believe they're available until the 5th of January. So you can get a ticket for £30 today. And together we are going to explore how to really honour this season and how to plant seeds in very fertile ground for the year ahead. This is not a new year, new me 2025 event. This is a welcome to 2025. Let's have the most nourishing year yet. Let's have the most nervous system regulating year yet. Let's listen to the inner wisdom. Let's be inspired by this season, and let's really align in with the rhythm of winter. It's going to be so good. I'd love to see you there. I'll leave us with this today. Rest is not something you have to earn. It's something that you, right now, are worthy of, simply because you exist. Full stop. End of story. So this week, give yourself the permission to rest. Rest like you really, really mean it. Because, baby, the 2025 glow up starts with restoration. If you've got a moment, let's pop down into the comments, let me know what is one way you can embrace the art of the slow life today. Leave it in the comments. Let's inspire each other. And if you dive into that rest ritual that we just talked about, if you're able to use the reframes from the stance work that we did earlier in the session, tag me in it on Instagram. I would love to see it. I'd love to see it in action and to see your version of it as well. That would be so awesome. Have an amazing week. Whatever you're getting up to this week, I hope it's fantastic. I hope you take good care of yourself. And I hope you know that I am cheering you on every single day to take good care of yourself. I will see you next week for our final podcast episode of 2024. I'll see you then. If Guided the podcast resonated with you, why not share it on your socials or send it to your friends? And if you have a spare moment, I would love it if you could leave me a review. These small gestures are free and they're invaluable in helping me amplify the reach of Guided the podcast, connecting us with more empowered women who are eager to increase their well-being. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop with our latest episodes. By subscribing, you'll stay connected and receive a weekly dose of inspiration directly to your inbox. Thank you for being a part of our community, for showing up, and for your commitment to personal growth and self-discovery. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and keep exploring the depths of your own inner wisdom.